Tonight's big story is Typhoon Egay leaves a trail of destruction as it batters northern Luzon, uprooting thousands of residents. We'll get updates on the ground later on.
President Marcos meets with the Malaysian King and Prime Minister in Kuala Lumpur.
And for those who missed the deadline, the DICT is granting a 5-day grace period for users to register and reactivate your SIMs.
Welcome to the show, Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Sean Yao.
Well, we're taking a break from all things sauna and shifting over to the weather, specifically updates on Typhoon Egay today.
Right, this cyclone, Reg, has actually made landfall twice today in Cagayan and continues to dump rains across northern Luzon.
Disaster officials and LGU heads have been preparing for Egay since last week, since it developed into a super typhoon over the course of several days. We'll be speaking to some of those officials later for updates. And speaking of Cagayan, we have our news team there, and they saw firsthand the impact from Typhoon Egay. The typhoon hit the town of Apari earlier today. Residents woke up to uprooted trees, houses with roofs torn off, and roads unpassable due to debris. Other towns, like in Santa Teresita, are flooded. Over 6,000 residents in the province had to be evacuated to safety. For now, authorities are still on standby as rains continue, which could mean more flooding as water from nearby provinces flow into Cagayan.
Patuloy pa rin umuulan mula doon sa Vizcaya, Quirino at Isabela. At ang mga ulan na mula doon ay kami ang sasalo dahil kami ang catch basin dito sa Region 2 ng lahat ng mga tubig na ibabagsak dito sa Rion.
Let's get more updates on Cagayan. We have Governor Manuel Mamba live with us tonight via Zoom. Governor, thanks for joining us. I know things must be really hectic right now, but thanks for making time to talk to us tonight.
That's true. Good evening to the three of you, Naso and Gretchen. That's true, no? It's been a really 3 or 4 day hectic days for all of us. And,
right.
Thank God, I think it will be ending soon. But we're still anticipating the swelling of our Cagayan River and some of its tributaries too. That is why it will not end with the typhoon itself or the super typhoon itself. But we're also anticipating some flooding if and when the swelling of the river estimates. No? At this point in time, our typhoon signal has been downgraded to 3 in some areas, and in some areas it's been 4. But classes is still suspended until tomorrow because some of our bridges and some of our roads are still not passable. But work will resume tomorrow, both private and public, because this has been suspended for the last 2 days. And so we're trying now to monitor the exit and at the same time also take note of the damages on our properties, including that of our infrastructure, also that of our crops and our fishery and our livestock.
Governor Mamba, did I hear you right? You said work and classes will resume in the province of Cagayan tomorrow. Does that mean power, water supply, and communication lines remain open and are still functioning as of now?
Well, it will just be work that will resume, but classes will still be suspended in the entire province because, as I was saying, electricity has not been restored yet in the entire province, and some of our roads have been, or bridges is not yet possible as of the moment.
Governor, nabalitan po natin nga na may areas po na walang kuryente, and I know that Cagayan is kind of used to flooding already, but compared to the past typhoons, how much or how strong was Typhoon Egay?
Well, this is the third super typhoon that we have. But, this is much quicker than that of Lawin and that of Ompo in 2016 and 2018. But this is also the first time that the northern portion of Cagayan has been hit by a super typhoon. Of course, the first two super typhoons that we had hit the southern portion of Cagayan. And that is why this is also a new thing for them. And I think it will be a learning experience for all our people in Akma.
Right, Governor Mamba, you also mentioned that the rivers, you're still watching out for the tributaries in case floodwaters rise or the waters there go above their usual levels. But are you also worried about water flowing down into Cagayan from other provinces? Is this an issue, especially as you said, the northern parts of Cagayan province are not used to this?
Yeah, that's true. No, this is the one we're monitoring now, no, because water from upstream is now coming downstream. As you all know, we are the catchment basin of the entire region. No? That includes all the provinces in Region 2 except that of Batanes, and also Kalinga, Apayao, and of course Ifugao waters will be coming down to us too, and that of the Cordillera mountain range and of the Sierra Madre mountain ranges. So all the waters will be coming in the next few hours. No? And that is why we have also alerted our people on this. No? Kailangan talaga paghahandaan din ito paglabas nila sa mga evacuation centers. No? Because we had about 15,000 individuals in the evacuation centers because we did a lot of preemptive evacuation, especially in the coastal towns, because of the threat of storm surges, no, along the coastal towns of Cagayan. And some of these evacuees also, which were also from the rivers, no, from along the rivers, the banks of the river. That is why we also have to preemptively evacuate them because of the fear of the swelling of the river, especially of that of Cagayan River. Pero medyo malilate ito. Kaya nga kanina pa, no, ay minomonitor na namin. We started with 3 meters, but now it's 6.2 meters. At sa awa ng Diyos, no, it's not that fast anymore. So we're assuming, no, baka pababa na rin ang level ng Cagayan River and its tributaries. Although some tributaries katulad ng Chico River coming from Kalinga talagang tumaas din po. That is why we have additional evacuees in some of our 140 plus evacuation centers.
Right. Governor, just very quickly, did I hear you right? You said 60,000 evacuees or 16,000 evacuees?
15,000 evacuees coming from about 3,000 plus families.
Okay, so 15,000. Do you have enough supplies for everyone? Very quickly here.
Well, at this point in time, no, it's a joint effort of the barangay, the town, and the province. So we're trying to augment. And tomorrow, Secretary Gatchalian is scheduled to come to the province because I talked to him 2 days ago, and he assured us that if and when augmentation is needed, he is one call away. And I was informed that he will be coming in tomorrow to see for himself the damages and the needs of these evacuation centers. But anyway, kaya pa namin ito, no? As far as yung barangay, the towns, no? And maybe later on, malalaman din namin kung ano yung mga damages and additional needs for our people.
That's very good to hear, Governor. We're going to have to leave it there. We'll check back in with you later on. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. That's Cagayan Governor Manuel Mamba.
Now, parts of Batanes also experienced strong winds and heavy rainfall from Egay. Over in Barangay Sinacan in Sabtang, trees swayed and bent with the wind as residents spent their day inside their homes. The province remains under signal number 3. In Basco, things are starting to look a lot better, although skies remain dark and cloudy. Authorities are conducting damage assessment to help speed along recovery. So far, there have been evacuations and some reported damage to agriculture. But fortunately, there have been no reported casualties.
In Marcos stronghold, Ilocos Norte, meanwhile, several towns are flooded. There's been massive damage to properties and farm crops, and we're also having a hard time reaching local officials who are busy, of course, with disaster response on the ground. The Philippine Coast Guard led emergency evacuations in a barangay in Bacara. Some residents were trapped as waters rose higher during the day due to heavy rains. In Paway, there is still moderate to heavy rainfall. Authorities are keeping a close eye on major waterways which are at risk of overflowing. The province has now declared a state of calamity with at least 8 towns bearing heavy damage. The provincial government says they're assessing the damage and that relief assistance will be provided. Now, we tried to reach town mayors and LGU officials to get some updates. So far, though, unfortunately, many, of course, are still stuck on the ground trying to manage the disaster. We did get this message from Laoag City Mayor Michael Marcos Quionne. He says their situation is really bad and that they're all shocked. Laoag has never experienced the intensity of rain and wind for this duration, and for now, Mayor Quionne said they're trying to respond to people trapped along low-lying areas near the Padsan River.
Let's move on over to Baguio, which continues to be battered by heavy rains. We have Vice Mayor Faustino Oloan to give us the latest on the ground. Magandang gabi po, Vice Mayor.
Magandang gabi din po at sa lahat ng nakikinig dito sa radio station.
Okay. Vice, mayroon pong mga nabalitang landslide po dyan sa inyo. Kamusta na po yun? Ano pong lagay? At may casualty po ba?
Of course, sa ngayon, may isa kaming casualty, namatay sila sa slide doon sa Bingaw, Bakakang Central. And the rest, puro mga slides at maraming mga sasakyan, maraming punong kahoy na naputol at maraming mga sasakyan na nadaganan, no? It has been the whole day today and last night that we are, of course, the rains are falling in the city of Baguio, no?
Vice, how many of these landslides have been reported, and are some roads unpassable?
Of course, except Cannon Road, no? Some portions of the Marcos Highway have been slide, pero it was opened late this afternoon, no? Cannon Road is unpassable, and of course, itong mga ibang kalsada katulad ng Baguio Vizcaya Road ay close din naman. At dito sa syudad, ang daming mga punong kahoy na naputol, no? At mga slides, medyo nagka-problema din kami dito sa Lagun area. Ito sigurong pinakamalakas na bagyong dumating sa amin, despite the fact na it is only this morning that it was signal number 2 in the city of Baguio.
Vice Mayor Faustino, base sa sinabi nyo, no, ito na nga yung pinakamalakas na bagyo na tumama dyan sa Baguio in recent history. Ano po yung visually napansin ninyo na malaking pagkakaiba? May mga new areas ba na dati hindi naman ganun kasama ang pagkakasalanta pag may dumadaang mga pag-ulan based na rin syempre sa rapid urbanization in Baguio City in the past few years?
Yeah, of course. This year, I'm referring to this year, all typhoons that visited our city. Ito ang pinakamalakas dahil nga kahapon pa, tuloy-tuloy ang ulan hanggang kagabi, no? Then today, it's almost all the whole day have been raining at accompanied by, of course, medyo malakas na hangin. So, tuloy-tuloy. So, lahat ng lugar, mayroon tayong napansin na mga slides, maliit man o malaki, ano? Pero yung mga matitibay na mga kabite or mga slope protection ay halos nag-iba na. Katulad ng malapit lang doon sa City Hall, yung sa Camp Allen po, ay nawasak yung Cavite natin doon. For the past 40 years, hindi man nagalaw. Ngayon lang. Of course, tuloy-tuloy kasi ang ulan, kaya malakas at siguro yung mga drainage ay medyo nagka-problema, kaya doon wala nang pasukan ng tubig, tuloy na nagiba ang mga Cavite namin.
So, Vice Mayor, last question, just in closing, what sort of help do you need given all of this?
Pardon, ma'am?
Anong klaseng tulong po kailangan nyo? Do you need
Of
any
course,
help from the national
we
government?
need all kinds of help from the national government. Ito naman ay siguro wala naman yung mga food packs, yun ang mga kailangan natin kasi may mga bagamat may mga kukunti lang ang nasa na pumunta doon sa mga evacuation center namin, ay halos lahat hindi makalabas sa kanilang mga bahay. Ay may mga slide, in short, may daming mga slide sa mga barangays.
Alright, thank you so much for joining us and mag-ingat po kayo at sana po maayos na po ang lahat po dyan. Baguio City Vice Mayor Faustino Olowan.
Alright, lipat naman tayo sa lagay ng panahon. This is the latest we have on Typhoon Egay. Egay has maintained its strength while moving northwestward over the Philippine Sea. At 5 p.m., Pag-asa spotted Egay some 70 kilometers west-northwest of Calayan in Cagayan. It is still packing wind speeds of up to 175 kilometers per hour with gustiness of up to 240 kilometers per hour. Typhoon Egay is forecast to leave the Philippine area of responsibility by tomorrow morning. However, violent and life-threatening conditions are expected to continue over in the Babuyan Islands, the northwestern portion of mainland Cagayan, and the northern portions of Apayao and Ilocos Norte for the next 6 hours. Meanwhile, the enhanced southwest monsoon or habagat will trigger rains in the western portions of central and southern Luzon, as well as in the Visayas for the next 3 days. For now, signal number 4 is still up in some areas, including the northwestern portion of Cagayan, the Babuyan Islands, and the northern portion of Ilocos Norte. Signal number 3 also remains up over Batanes, northern and central portion of Cagayan, the rest of Ilocos Norte, the northern part of Abra, and the northern part of Ilocos Sur. Meantime, signal number 2 is still up in several other areas, as flashed on your screens. Metro Manila and other parts of Luzon are under signal number 1.
Up next, we'll find out more about President Bongbong Marcos' second day in Malaysia for a state visit. That and more when the big story returns. Keep it here. You're still watching the big story here on One News. President Marcos met with Malaysian King Al Sultan Abdullah and the country's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim earlier today. This morning, King Abdullah and Queen Aziza held a welcoming ceremony for Marcos at the Istana Negara, or the National Palace. There, Marcos was given a 21-gun salute. Marcos and the Malaysian King also held a ceremonial tree planting at the palace compound to mark the Philippine president's visit. After that, Marcos had a bilateral meeting with Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, where the two countries affirmed stronger ties. Marcos says he and Ibrahim agreed to convene the next Philippine-Malaysia Joint Commission meeting sometime in October. The chief executive says this will be an avenue for agencies to discuss areas like transnational crime, agriculture, and the halal industry. Marcos and Ibrahim also agreed to enhance the two nations' trade ties.
I made a expression of gratitude to the Prime Minister and as well to the King earlier today, expression of gratitude for all the help that we have received from Malaysia and Southern Philippines. It has been an important part of whatever success that we might enjoy today.
Let's get more details on those bilateral talks between President Marcos and Malaysia's Prime Minister Ibrahim with Elaine Fulgencio, who has been following the president around in Malaysia. Elaine, were the two leaders able to discuss the countries' territorial disputes over Sabah?
Sean, there was no mention of talks regarding the territorial issues over Sabah, at least during the press conference following the two leaders' bilateral talks. The two leaders, though, agreed to closely coordinate efforts to build capacity and BARM, especially on sectors like the halal industry, Islamic banking, and food security. The two nations also agreed to sign memorandums of agreements in the near future. Marcos said Malaysia also offered to train personnel to strengthen capabilities in these sectors. The two nations likewise reaffirmed to support activities of ASEAN and the BIMP-IAGA, or the Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippine Station Growth Area. Sean?
Thank you for that, Elaine Fulgencio.
The government is set to hold a soft launch of its Philippine e-visa system in Philippine Foreign Service posts in China starting August 24. The Foreign Affairs Department collaborated with the DICT to develop the Philippine e-visa system under the policy directive of President Marcos. This new system enables foreign nationals entering the country to conveniently apply for temporary visitor passes online using their electronic devices. This initiative is part of the continuous efforts to enhance the country's consular affairs as well as improve digitalization efforts in the country.
Pursuant to the President's directive of enticing foreigners into the country. So because of the numbers that China has in terms of tourist arrivals in the past, then it would be a very good pilot area for us to test the ability, the capacity, and the potential of the e-visa system.
But why did the DFA choose particularly China to hold this soft launch for its e-visa system? Let's find out from Camille Samonte. Camille, what details do you have for us?
Sean, data from the Tourism Department showed that there were more than 1.7 million tourist arrivals from China in 2019. However, this number greatly declined due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, with restrictions finally eased, these numbers has yet to climb back to pre-pandemic numbers. From January to July 2023, there have been only 136,000 Chinese tourist arrivals in the country. The DOT is hopeful that with the launch of the e-visa system, Chinese visitors will rebound. And even with the online visa application, the DFA assured of a rigorous vetting process for all applicants. In cases where documents raise doubts, applicants may be required to attend a face-to-face interview at the consular office. Once the pilot program is thoroughly assessed and receives positive feedback, the DFA plans to extend the e-visa system to other countries as well. Sean?
Thanks for that, Camille Samonte.
Up next, if you failed to register your SIM cards ahead of the deadline, worry not, there's still a way to reactivate your SIMs. We'll talk about that when we return. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. You are still watching The Big Story here on One News. And here's a question for you. Did you miss the SIM registration deadline?
No, I did not. And I'm sure neither did
not.
Reg.
Hindi naman kayo yung tinatanong ko, but okay.
Okay, siguro meron dyan yung maraming SIMs. Hindi lahat
Oh yes,
nire-register
that's
nila.
true.
Pwede rin.
Sino ba yung maraming
By
sims
choice.
dyan?
That's a good point. Well, for those who still have not, you have a 5-day grace period to register and reactivate your SIMs. The DICT announced that users whose SIM cards have been deactivated have until Monday to reactivate. But the agency notes that there will be no more extensions after this grace period. The DICT also has a warning.
After that, you will no longer be able to use your SIM cards, and it's going to be a more tedious process if you need to reactivate.
So, question, how do you reactivate your SIMs? Well, the NTC says users with deactivated SIM cards may still receive text messages, but only on one-time PINs or OTPs that will be used for registration. Users with deactivated SIMs will not be able to use mobile data, so they will only be able to register if they have Wi-Fi connection so that they can access the registration website. The agency has reported a surge in last-minute registrants as the hard deadline ended Tuesday. Some 106 million SIM cards have been registered, or that's about 63% of the total number of subscribers.
Right before we go, time for a big picture, or should we say big pictures for tonight? I prepared a slideshow. Well, okay, it wasn't me who prepared it, but really, it's some serious news. We are paying our respects to the very, very talented comedian and impersonator Willie Nepomuceno, who passed away today at the age of 75. Willie is also called Willie Nep, is a pillar of Philippine entertainment, and he was best known for his satirical impersonations of political personalities. These include former presidents like Ferdinand Marcos Sr., Joseph Estrada, Pinoy or Noynoy Aquino, and Rodrigo Duterte. And of course, President Bongbong Marcos was also not spared from his Willie Nep's impersonations. Aside from all these, Willie also impersonated the likes of former Senator Juan Ponce Enrile, Dolphy, and even Pope Francis.
Definitely remember him in a lot of faces tonight.
Yeah. It's been a day of somber news. Typhoon and then also a death. But we'd be remiss not to mention in happier news, happy birthday, Sean.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
I suppose that's how life rolls,
I know
right?
it's wet and dark outside, but you know, I think you've got lots to look forward to
I
this
hope
year.
it's a good day. It's been a good day for you.
It's been a good day. I think we're all safe and warm here. That's more than a lot of people can say
that's
right
true.
now. And thank you, guys. And thank you.
We'll be continuing. We're not going to reveal her age if that's what you're waiting
Yes,
for.
I was just about to extra us. Before we get to that part, that's it for the show tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.